Hey, what's goody, Frye gang? So now that the Sizzle season, what did I say there? The Sizzle season trailer just has been out for a while. There's pretty mixed opinions on it. All right, a lot of people think that this is the final season, and a lot of people are hoping that we will be getting a content extension. Now, will we actually be getting a content extension? Considering that we got both kits for the Stringers and Splatana, I would say no. This is most likely the final season. Nintendo did promise that we would be getting 2 years of content, and this last season would mark 2 years of content. And they have made no claim or hint or anything at a content extension. If we did get one, they would probably announce it during the season, maybe when it starts or maybe near when it's ending. But we got both Stringer and Splatana kits in the same season. We got 2 kits for 1 weapon in 1 season. Oh, first of all, they could have been doing that this entire time, all right? So third kits were more than possible. But I'm gonna get on to third kits in a second. But that's kind of just like confirming that there won't really be any more season extensions, because if we were getting another season after Sizzle, why would they drop the second kits in Sizzle season? Why wouldn't they just add it in the season afterwards along with like Sheldon picks or whatever? But I don't think we're getting a content extension, and Tapeworm here summed up my thoughts perfectly. It's looks like a lot, but it's not. But he says, I think people should remember the reason why Splatoon 2 got more content than Splatoon 3. Splatoon 2 launched on a console that just came out, and the console before did so poorly. When the Switch started selling like hotcakes, Splatoon 2 sales were through the roof compared to Splatoon 1. It was an online multiplayer game at the beginning of the console's life cycle. Nintendo decided to give it an extra year of content updates to keep players engaged. Splatoon 3, on the other hand, released around the middle of the console's life cycle, more near the end. Naturally, it's not going to sell as well, and if you look at the huge decline of sales numbers Splatoon 3 has had, then you can understand why Nintendo probably doesn't want to give it a content extension, yet people think it will get one because it's the third game. And I agree with all of this. Splatoon 2, yes, it clearly has a lot more content than Splatoon 3, and people think that Splatoon 3 should have a lot more content than Splatoon 2, and it should just get more and more with each game, which on paper, yeah, that sounds right. That sounds like the case, but that's not realistically going to happen, especially if Splatoon 3 is selling less than Splatoon 2. And to be fair, Splatoon 3 is not even that far off from Splatoon 2. As of December 31st of 2022, Splatoon 2 has sold has sold 13.6 million copies, and as of March this year, March 31st, so just over a month ago, 2 months ago, Splatoon 3 is almost at 12 million, so it's not even that far off. And given the time frame, Splatoon 2's been out for like what, 7 years, something like that, and then Splatoon 3's only been out for 2, so it's actually getting up there with Splatoon 2. It's getting close, but even then, a lot of that was probably just initial hype and extra copies sold once side order came out. I don't think there's as many people playing Splatoon 3 now as there were people playing Splatoon 2 near the end of its update cycle. So even though the sales numbers are pretty close, I'm pretty sure the player base is less than Splatoon 2, just given all of the complaints people have about the game, about like maps and lack of content and everything. That's really turned people off from Splatoon 3. And I think Nintendo's been able to notice that. Why the game is so lacking in content though, I really don't understand. That's beyond me. But one thing that could explain it, I think Chara explained it the best in his video about challenges, so I'll play that little segment.
gameplay. But I want to dive deeper into this and ask you guys a question. Why are challenges like this? Why would the devs put a new mode in the game that people like so much and have it be this limited? Because this has to be an intentional decision. Let me know in the comments, because I'm really curious what you guys think, but I have my own theory. I think this game really tries to use the fear of missing out way too much. Let's think about some of the things in Splatoon 3 that are limited time events. We have Splatfest, and then recently we've added Big Run in this game, which is kind of like Salmon Run version of Splatfest. Then after that, we got Extra Work. Now this being somewhat limited makes sense. I mean, you do have to set up the scenario. I can imagine it'd take up some time, but this is basically as rare as Big Runs are. Is a map with a certain scenario code really as rare as playing on a multiplayer stage with an invasion, possible nuking salmon, and all this other stuff? I don't think so. But they got away with Extra Work. People didn't really complain too much about just how rare it is, at least not yet. Then they did challenges, and I think in this case, it was just too obvious. I've seen complaints about challenges from the moment they announced that it would be limited time to today rather consistently from all corners of the community. It might be one of the few topics that pretty much everyone is agreeing was messed up on. I've seen so many players, even competitive players like Kyo and myself, have the opinion that this just didn't really add a new, unique, fun experience that we wanted. Some people might say, oh come on, it's not that bad. I mean, these challenges happen like once a week or so. That's way more often than the stuff like Big Run, right? No, because challenges isn't just one thing you have to miss out on. It's like 10 separate challenges. If you like too many Trizookas, for example, well then you better be paying attention to when this is gonna pop up, because you're only gonna see it once every 2 months or so. Hell, the high jump mode that most people were looking forward to hasn't even happened and won't until hopefully sometime next month at the soonest. And it's not like they can't have these challenges be sooner. In fact, an already announced challenge is going to be 3 of the same challenges that we've had before, repeating one after the other, which is insane because this literally shows that they could have these challenges more often. Like, these are still only 6 hours, but 6 hours out of an entire day for every single day for those 3 days is 1/4 of the day, or 25% of the month. A drastic increase from the 4.2% we have right now. So it's not like the devs can't do this. They are intentionally keeping it like this.
So it seems like Splatoon 3 really is just built all up on FOMO and just fear of missing out. So it tries to have like super limited game modes, little content, so people feel like they're going to miss it if they don't get it. That's why challenges are so short. Again, Charles made a whole video on challenges, so you can go watch that. I'll link it in the description. Big Run, Splatfest, those are natural short game modes, but like Extra Work, Golden Rotation, those are also super limited. So it feels like they really wanted to go all FOMO for this, which makes no sense. Splatoon is already a very popular series, and with Splatoon 2, that was a huge deal. That did very well. They really have no reason to try to induce FOMO here. If they just put a lot of content in the game and good content in the game, that will bring a lot more sales than FOMO did. Like we saw, Splatoon 2 has a shit ton of content and it sold very well. Splatoon 3 has way less content and it's selling less. I think there's a correlation there to be made. And though I think with time around Splatoon 3's 7-year mark, it probably will surpass Splatoon 3 in sales, or Splatoon 2 in sales, but I doubt that, considering the new Nintendo console should be coming out next year or the very latest the year after. So not too many people are going to be buying Switches in Splatoon 3, so I don't think Splatoon 3 has too much time left to catch up to Splatoon 2. I don't think it's going to get there in time. But regardless, back on topic, I don't think there's going to be a content extension for Splatoon 3. Just all things considered, with how the game is already lacking as it is. You know, Splatoon 2 got third weapon kits around a year and a half into its cycle before the whole life cycle is even done, and we don't have a single third kit in Splatoon 3 right now. We're just finally getting the last of the second kits. I really doubt they're doing another season to drop Sheldon picks. If they were to do that, that would be this season. So although we are going to still be getting updates for Splatoon 3, so like balance patches, maybe repeat Splatfest, like cycling through catalogs every season, small minor changes like that, but we're not going to get any more big like new weapons, new map, new modes type of thing. It's just going to be like it was for Splatoon 2 after its content extension, just a balance patches here and there. And a lot of people got that idea, or like a lot of people are clinging on to hope that we are getting a content extension or at least some kind of third DLC wave, which, oh my god, this one's painful. People used at the end of the Sizzle season trailer, when we see the jelly there with all of the idle stuff on, a lot of people think for some reason that's hinting at some type of third DLC, some idle DLC, which makes no sense. It's most likely either the final Splatfest, the final fest is going to be announced in the direct in June, and the final fest is going to be some like big idol fest that people have been wanting. So Squid Sisters versus Off the Hook versus Deep Cut, which, I mean, my girl Frye is going to win that one again, getting her 4th win, bruh. Technically 3rd in the West, but 4th win, we're here for it. Anyway, it's either the final fest or a hint at some like live concert with all 3 of them together as like a big capstone to send off Splatoon 3 and the whole Switch era of Splatoon before we go into the new console. And I don't know where people are getting this from, but they think that's a hint at DLC or content extension. What would that even mean? What would that even look like? What would a third DLC wave even look like? I know some people are hoping that it's I'm saying it like it's actually happening, that if there was DLC, they were hoping that it was Deep Cut centered, since Deep Cut, they have like no backstory at all in the main story. We haven't gotten really anything, but I think people fail to realize that a lot of the backstory and lore that comes for the idol groups are from mediums outside of the game or not even in the story mode. So Sunken Scrolls, we got some or Squid Sisters and Off the Hook lore, but a lot of other lore comes from outside of the games, so other media like interviews or art books and stuff like that. Now, I haven't looked through the art of Splatoon 3, so I don't know if there's lore in there about Deep Cut, and I'm not aware of any interviews, but I don't know if we get lore from live concerts as well or whatever. But I don't think Splatoon 3's been out long enough to get stuff like that. Relative to Splatoon 1 and 2. Splatoon 1's been out for 15 years, Splatoon 2 for 7 years. So they've had time to build up lore and backstory from like merch and other outside mediums. Splatoon 2 hasn't even been out for 2 years yet. So Deep Cut hasn't had enough time to develop yet. At least that's how I see it. I could be completely wrong. And I'm sorry, but I don't use this term a lot, but people are huffing the maddest amount of copium. One of the absolute dumbest things I've ever seen. People are coping so damn hard that they thought, people were hoping that we were getting 4 waves of DLC because the expansion pass logo has 4 colors on it. Are you fucking serious? I'm sorry, but how? That's like peak desperation if I've ever seen it. Like, yes, of course more DLC would be nice, but come on, bro. To think that we'd get more DLC just because the logo has 4 colors, that makes no goddamn sense. That's just delusion territory at this point. And plus, Nintendo had already stated we're getting 2 waves of DLC before the game even came out, if I remember correctly. It was either before the game came out or shortly after, but they had stated that we would be getting 2 waves of DLC, one for Inkopolis Square and the other being Side Order. Nowhere ever did they mention we would be getting more DLC. And if we were to get more DLC, they would announce that. They're not just going to drop it out of nowhere. And they're not going to shadow drop DLC for Splatoon 3. That's a big deal. They're not just going to shadow drop that, and they have made no hints or anything whatsoever to DLC for Splatoon 3 or a wave 3 and 4, let alone a 3. So I don't know where people are getting that from. There's not going to be any more DLC, and I very highly doubt there's going to be a content extension. I'm sure this is the final trailer or the final season. And yes, Nintendo didn't outright specifically say this is the final season. And a lot of people are bringing that up because they said the final what is it called? Bone Rattle Arena? Bone Rattle Arena is the final Salmon Run map. And people are using that as evidence, like, well, this isn't the final season because Nintendo didn't say that. Well, although that is true, they don't really need to outright come and say this is the final season. As far as I know, they didn't do that for Splatoon 2, saying the final season was the final season. But then again, I didn't get to play Splatoon 2 until like 2020, 21, when the life cycle was already well over. So I have no clue. But yeah, and semi-related, the big run we're going to have in a couple weeks, I don't think that's going to be the final one either. I'm sure they're just going to cycle it like they are going to a Splatfest. If they do cycle Splatfest like they did for Splatoon 2, I'm sure they're just going to do the same for Big Runs, because Big Run is just basically the Salmon Run Splatfest. It's this big event that everyone's going to be there for. So, and in the tweet that they dropped about Big Run, they didn't say it was the final one. So I'm kind of being hypocritical here, but they didn't say it's the final one. So there's a high chance that it's not going to be. But at least for the season, I'm pretty confident that this is the last one. But all of this is just what I think. If I'm wrong, I would love to be wrong. Obviously, I would love to have some more Splatoon 3 content. I live for it. But I just really don't think that's going to happen. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. I would be so happy to be wrong. But I've talked for too much now. But that's about it. See you next mission to play some goddamn Splatty.